Hey, Trevor Alexander here with Burns Saddlery, and today for ShopTalk's how-to, I'm going to be making a mouse pad. Okay, so the tools that we're going to need today, we're going to need a square, some sort of modeling tool, a knife, a pen, a stylus. We're going to need a stitch groover and an open-ended stitch groover, and then we have two edgers here. We have a number 1 and we have this number 0. We have our wing dividers. We have a die pen, a hammer, and a burnish rag. We have 2 pieces of veg tan, about 7 to 8 ounce. We have some shap hide, and we have some foam. The foam should be about double the thickness of the veg tan that we have. So the mouse pad we're going to be making today will be 11 inches by 9 inches. And so we'll mark that on this leather here. Okay, now that we've got that marked, we're going to go ahead and cut this piece out. Always make sure you keep your fingers behind the blade. Now that we have our rectangle cut, we're going to go ahead and stitch groove around the outside. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and find center. And then we're going to come about halfway down. Mark center. I'm just going to mark a line lightly between the 2 points. Okay, so now that we found center, we're going to measure 1 inch down from the top here. Okay, now we're going to measure 8 inches down and make another dot. So now with our wing dividers, we're going to span those 2 dots that we just made, and we're going to make a radius out to the edge. Just really light. Okay. And we're going to set our wing dividers to 1/2 inch. We're going to make a box all the way around. To these points here. Okay, so this is going to be our inlaid portion of the mouse pad, and we'll go ahead and cut that out now. Okay, now that we have our inlaid portion cut out, we're going to stitch mark around the inside. Then we can go ahead and connect these points with our other stitch groover. Now we're going to grab our other side of leather. We're going to put our inlay piece back in, just as a reference. Now we're going to trace around this outside with a pen. And then we can just lift this piece off and trace around this inside. Okay, now we're going to prep our foam. So for our foam, we're just going to set this piece that we cut out, and we're going to trace around it. And then I'm just going to cut on the inside of the line, so on this side of the line. Then I'm going to mark that this is the top part, just with a T. Okay, so now that our foam is prepped and it's the right size, we're going to flip it over and we're going to glue this to here. Just a thin amount of glue makes life a lot easier. That way you don't get all these big air bubbles and stuff from the glue. Okay, now we'll let that glue set up for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and stick it. Okay, so now we're going to stick our foam to our backer piece. Now that our foam is glued to our backer piece, we're going to go ahead and work with our shap hide, and we're going to trim it up. That way we're not wasting all that glue. Now we're going to glue the entire face of this and the smooth side of the shap hide. Make sure you get down in those cracks. Now that's all glued, we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes and get it stuck. All right, so now that this is all ready to stick, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I want to be careful not to create any air bubbles while we're doing this. Stick it down. Like that. We're going to take our modeling tool and just push in around the edge, creating that nice crease to the foam. Okay, now that that's all stuck, we're going to go ahead and decorate our top piece, and then we'll get them stuck together. Okay, now we got our top piece decorated. Now we're going to take our small edger, this Berry King 0, we're going to go around this inside edge on both sides. Now we're using a small edger here because if we use a big edger it'll look like a big old gap. And that's not what we want. Okay, now we're going to get everything glued. Want to be really careful not to get any glue on the edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of glue up here, and then for these bottom edges I'm just going to use my finger. Get a little bit of glue on your finger. For this top piece, we're going to switch back to a brush. Okay, now we're gonna let that glue set up for about 5 minutes. Come back and stick it. Okay, now that our glue's set up, we're gonna go ahead and stick this. And then we're gonna tap our edges with the hammer. Now when you tap the edges of the hammer, it just seats your glue and makes it bond really well. And now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and sew this up around the edges. Going to pull all my strings to the back, and then I'm going to tie them in a knot and burn off the threads. Okay, now that everything's sewn up, we're going to go ahead and trim off this excess. Now that everything's trimmed up, now we're going to wet the edge, and then we're going to edge it with that number 1 edger I have. Now we're going to wet the edge one more time. Then we're going to burnish it. Now that the edges are burnished, we're going to dye the edge. Okay, now we're just going to put a little coat of oil on this. We're not going to oil this part. We're just going to oil this outside, and then it'll be done. We're going to try our hardest not to get any oil on that shaft leather. Okay, there's our completed mouse pad. Thanks for watching this month's how-to on how to make a mouse pad. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to ShopTalk for more how-tos like this.